Welcome to Momma-Sota, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the beautiful mess of motherhood. I'm your host, Monica Eickman, and I'm here to keep it real. In a world that changes by the minute, parenting can often feel like an uphill battle. We all want what's best for our children, but what that best looks like varies for every one of us. Momma-Sota is your passport to the unfiltered, unapologetic world of mommy. No perfectly edited snapshots or unattainable ideals here. We're here to share the ups and downs, the triumphs and tantrums, the mess and the beauty of being a mom. Join me as we explore the raw and authentic side of parenting. This is your safe space to vent, laugh, and learn as we navigate the unpredictable journey of raising strong, capable, and independent children for the future. Hey mamas, welcome to today's episode of Momma-Sota. It's me, your host, Monica Eickman. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3 children, currently in the age range of 15 months to 6 years old. So sleepless nights are something I'm all too familiar with right now. Aside from being asked how much baby weighs at any given moment, I think the number one question I've been asked with each of my children is, how are they sleeping, or are they sleeping through the night yet? Joining us today is special guest Morgan Lucier. She is a mother to a 12-month-old boy herself, so she is in the midst of nap and overnight sleep schedules as well. Morgan has worked in infant care for about 10 years and is a newborn care specialist and pediatric sleep consultant. Welcome, Morgan, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So the topic of sleep is one that any new mama undoubtedly becomes wrapped up in, both for themselves and baby. But before we jump into that, tell us more about you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, my son is 12 months old. He is our first and only. We were so surprised to have him, but very excited nonetheless. And I've been working with infants for about a decade now, so I felt pretty prepared to have him. Although every baby is unique, so he throws his own surprises at us every day.
Yeah. So then you said you've been with the newborn care for about 10 years. Share with us your journey kind of into that line of work and through it up to kind of becoming a mother yourself.
Yeah, so it started as part-time nannying through college, just trying to make some money as a young entering adulthood. And then all of a sudden I realized how passionate I was about it, and I kept getting recommended to different families, and it turned into a 6-year-long thing where I had almost exclusively worked with families who had infants, a lot of multiple children in the families, but mostly those with infants. And I realized how passionate I was about babies and how fun they are and all of that stuff. So I decided to take classes in newborn care, and that got me involved in sleep. And then I started working with agencies and word of mouth through different families, helping with their babies, supporting them prenatally to prepare to bring baby home, setting up nurseries. I got the unique experience of traveling around the U.S. to help families with sleep. And now 10 years later, and it's still something I really love to do.
Awesome. And so that was all kind of leading up to, and you said that your baby was kind of a surprise. How did that fit into the schedule of what you were doing with your consulting?
Yeah, so I absolutely had to stop going into people's homes. I was the last family that I worked in home with for specifically sleep. I didn't know I was pregnant while I was with them, and I couldn't figure out why I was so tired trying to help them when I was so used to doing this overnight thing, and I just could not stay up. And that led me to finding out that I was pregnant just a few weeks after I left them. And I did end up just doing nannying during the daytime throughout my pregnancy because I just could not keep up with the overnight care during it. But it was another infant, and my experience obviously is what attracted them to hiring me, and now they are some of my best friends, and it was such an amazing family to kind of end that journey of in-person support with, because then I took a year off to be with my boy, and now we're at the year mark, and I decided that it was time to get back to helping families while being home with him. And that's how Soothe and Snooze was born, virtually.
Okay, so you're doing newborn care, pediatric sleep consulting, virtual, which that's like my number one hurrah blessing of COVID is learning that we can do so many things virtually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So what's kind of the biggest inspiration to pursuing that specific part of infant care for your profession?
Yeah, it's something that, especially after having Benji, I realized that every mother is dealing with how do we get our baby sleep? how do we do this? And the internet and social media is filled with so much information and so much good information, but it's really nice to have one voice that can guide you through it. And that's what led me virtually, because I knew I can support these families who are the experts of their babies without being in their home. They can do the work. They just need help navigating this information, and they need to feel empowered to do so.
So how do you assist the families in navigating the challenge of caring for the newborn and promoting those healthy sleep habits?
Yeah, so I start by doing a consultation that takes about 60 minutes. So it's a little bit of a commitment for the families to decide that they need to block out 60 minutes of their time to talk to me. But during that time, I let them tell me all about where they're at, who they are, who their baby is, and get that unique sense of this individual, because babies are individuals and there is no one size fits all. And then together we can navigate what they feel fits for them, what really kind of fits well with them, and we come up with a custom plan that way. Whether that might just be a schedule, that might be soothing support, that might mean that I recommend them towards other professionals that help with newborn care or motherhood, things like that, if I realize that their situation might be outside of my scope. So that consultation is really what helps me guide them in a unique way so they don't have all of this one size fits all information in their head.
I think that's, like you said, kind of one of the biggest things is when we do hop onto the internet and try to find these sleep methods or what we should do, we're either confused because, like you said, there's schedules, there's infamous cry it out, there's, all these different methods. So it's either we're jumping from one thing to the next and just kind of like trying everything, but not really for the amount of time that's going to offer success. Or we're just so confused that it's like we go back to just kind of doing nothing, and we're trying to figure out still then, why isn't baby sleeping how we want them to sleep?
Absolutely. And the lack of consistency hurts everybody. I mean, as humans, we really do better when we are somewhat structured at the very least, and we have that consistency. So having someone who can hold your hand and find a plan that works for you can really, really help.
Yeah. And so with you, like this is your own business here is more of a new step. What was the biggest motivation for launching your own consulting business?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, when I was traveling, I was going through agencies and word of mouth from other families. So I did that for a very long time, and it kind of felt like there was always a family lined up for me. So this is different. I'm putting myself out there. I'm putting my passions out there and hoping that it reaches somebody who goes, yeah, that's what I need. So that's a whole different ball game. And my motivation for that wasn't just having my son and staying home with him, but it was also from all the moms that I met after having him, doing ECFE in Minnesota, the early childhood classes, and meeting a lot of moms who needed support. I realized, wow, I can still help you. There is a way for me to do this and still be a mom. So learning how to mesh the two is really what got me here.
What would you say then have been some of the biggest advantages and challenges running your own business?
Oh my goodness, they're both so big. The biggest challenges, I think, again, is just putting yourself out there. It's scary, especially in a world where there is social media. And like we've already talked about, there's so many people in the baby field. Anyone who can market themselves towards mothers has done it, for the worse or the better. So trying to put myself out there and realize I am doing this from a different point of view. I am doing this recognizing and respecting the unique and individuality of every person. It's a little bit scary. It definitely is. But I think that it's also brought me the clients that it has that fit that want to be respected. They fit that mold. They want to find somebody that's willing to work with them in that sense, and it doesn't want just step-by-step instructions off Google. That has been a pleasure and also a little bit scary at the same time. Yeah.
How do you try to set yourself apart or show that you are different than, like you said, everyone that's out there marketing this?
Yes, it's definitely been difficult. I try to, like you said, I'm still new to launching and my website's not up yet. So I've been using Instagram and Facebook and just talking to as many people as I can, talking to as many mothers as I can, even out when I meet people, whether through ECFE or play groups or anything, and getting that one-on-one experience with people, because moms trust moms. So if we can talk to each other and sit down and have those deeper conversations, then I know the word can spread that, I am different and I am here to help you.
Awesome. So obviously the whole childbirth education, prenatal, all of that has been a big part of your past with doing all the nannying and that sort of thing. How do you believe like those aspects contribute with a smoother transition into parenthood and then arriving at some of those sleep questions?
Absolutely. And I really am just the biggest believer in education. I really feel like you have to, in this day and age, put yourself out there and ask the hard questions. And doing that and getting that childhood support, the prenatal support, the postnatal support, all of that, and asking questions before you're in the throes of it sets you up with a better foundation. We've kind of lost touch of this it takes a village style. Unfortunately, the village has become a luxury at some point instead of the natural and necessary part of having a family. So educating yourself and finding your village, even if it means finding professionals, that is going to help set you up for success when you do get into the throes of the hard parts.
That's a topic that has kind of come up with almost each mother that I've spoken to, is that education piece, the village, and just that vulnerability of like, when did it not become okay to have help or to ask for help? Where did all this like shame or this I need to be Wonder Woman, like where is this coming from? Because we're all feeling the same thing of I shouldn't need to do this, but that's how I feel like I have to do it.
Yeah, and I think it really stems too from we're being told that sleep and feeding is so intuitive and so natural, and it makes you feel like you can't ask for help. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter how natural it is, it's still hard. It doesn't matter how intuitive it is, it's still hard for you and baby. And it's okay to have somebody there to support you and talk to you and hold space for you. And hopefully, in one time or another, you'll be able to hold that space for someone else. And that way, we can kind of rebuild this mother supporting mother community that we're all desperately seeking.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's yes, there's that motherly instinct, but it's new. You still haven't done it. And even if you do the education and you learn about it and you do as much of the reading, like you said, each child is different.
Yes. Each pregnancy is different.
Yeah. So I'm like, each time it happens, it's still, there's going to be something that you're like, well, I've done this, but I haven't done this before. So
Exactly. And like I said, I've been working with families for 10 years. I have met probably every style of family you can think of. And yet there's still something to be learned from every single one. And I think that helps me support new mothers even more because I've learned something from the mother before. And I hope when I have a new client, I'll learn something from them too.
I love that you even said, yeah, each sleep situation is unique. And so you start with that consultation. And even there, as they're coming to you as the expert, you're willing to realize and accept that there still might be something I don't know or that is outside my scope. And so I'm going to refer them again to someone else. And just, acknowledging that we still have areas to grow.
Absolutely. And I cannot be everything to everybody, just like you can't be. So we can hold that space as much as we possibly can, but at some point it surpasses our knowledge. And there is somebody out there who is working for it, whether that be a chiropractor, you're a pediatrician, a lactation specialist. I mean, there's somebody. I mean, there's nothing to be wrong with finding a maternal therapist, even if that's what you need. There's always somebody out there that can help you. Maybe you just need to take that step in having the conversation so someone can help you find them.
Yeah. And when we're talking about promoting healthy sleep habits, I think sometimes we, again, are so focused on the baby, which great, there, like that's very important, but we have to promote these healthy sleep habits are essential for both the infant and the parents. Can you share some of your tips or strategies for promoting these healthy sleep habits in infants and then supporting the parent in addressing their sleep challenges as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to use a word that every mother is going to roll their eyes at, but hang with me. My biggest tip is routine. And I know, oh my gosh, I've seen this routine thing. I've seen it. I know I'm supposed to do the same swaddle and feed and diaper at this time, that time. But I don't mean just the routine that everyone's doing on Instagram when they have a light and it looks really pretty. I mean a routine that's realistic for your family. Make sure it's something that you can repeat every day, that feels natural to you, and baby will follow suit because you're a family. So your routine is unique to you and baby. It is not what the famous mother TikTokers are doing. It is all about what is realistic for you, and that is the biggest tip. My second biggest tip is breathe. Just take a breath. If it's not working, take a step back and try something else, or don't try it all for a second. You can try again next time. It's okay. We're all learning, even baby.
Yeah, I love that. Like you said, what we're seeing on social media, and that's kind of why I've started the Momma-Sota thing, is to try to pull away from the perfection edited snapshot version of, oh, they rubbed the baby's nose 3 times and then they spun their hand in a circle and baby's just knocked out asleep. Look at this magic. Wait a minute.
I absolutely agree. And it's just not realistic for every family to have a calming classical music massage routine with their 3-month-old. Sometimes your routine is you read 2 pages of a book and baby's ready to go to sleep. So you stop reading and you put them to sleep. It's okay. It doesn't have to feel like you failed somewhere because it didn't work one night. You're not a failure. You are doing the best you can, and that baby is going to love you anyway.
And when we talk about routine, and like you said, so the routine might be read the book, rock whatever, but if they fall asleep through it, or if they're not quite ready yet, just making that adjustment. And even then, once we get, we're on a routine for, like you said, 3 months, then baby switches it up.
Yeah, all the time. And I'd say that's one of the biggest things I've learned in my career is go with the flow. Because as soon as you think you've got it handled, they're going to change on you. And that's okay. And that's also part of what I do when I have continued support packages. And when someone decides to go through with a continued support package, I also create this unique packet, basically, that's just for their family, that talks about the sleep events that they may or may not see, because every baby is unique, as they grow. That way they know how to handle it, and they already have those tools, and they know the signs for that.
So when do you typically suggest or see kind of a parent come to you as a starting point?
Right. I mean, if it was a perfect situation, you would all come to me before you have baby. You have an amazing foundation, but that's just not real. And it's not always going to happen. More times than none, parents find me because they're in the throes of it and they need the help now. So I don't recommend any type of formal training, coaching, whatever word you want to use, until baby has obviously met a good weight, is healthy. We want a healthy, happy baby to start with. If not, let's work on that first. You can start a routine as early as you want, but we aren't going to start anything formal until we know that they are healthy and happy, and usually past that 4-month regression, because that is such a big biological shift that we don't need to be introducing things that don't fit where they're at right now. So once you can look at sleep differently after that big shift, that's a good time to start more formal training or coaching, or again, whatever method you want to call it.
And then is there any point where you would say, as far as where your training goes, like your child is more beyond the age of my scope or past where I do things, or do you have kind of things set up for if someone's coming to you at 18 months or 2 years old?
Yeah, absolutely. So I say that I specialize in prenatal up to 1 year. I have helped a lot of parents through the 12-month regression that you tend to see somewhere between 11 and 13 months, of course. And I've helped some parents with signs and tools on what to expect for the possible 15, possible 18-month regression. But I wouldn't say toddlers are my specialty. Obviously, my education is a background in newborn care and newborn sleep. So I tend to say that if we're at that age of around 15 to 18 months, we're getting to the point where it's not my specialty, and I might have some tips for you, but I'd much rather refer you to someone else in the field that specializes in toddlers, preschoolers, school agers, because that's what their education lies.
And would you say what's kind of with your consulting and program for each, what's kind of that end goal as far as, because I mean, there's so many things that people could be seeking. Is it getting baby to go to sleep initially on their own? Is it getting baby to sleep so many hours consecutively? What's kind of the path or goal there?
Yeah, so when it comes to that, that's unique for every family. And I want to help you meet your goals. My goal is to leave a family feeling like they don't need me anymore. I want them to feel empowered and like they have the tools that they don't need me. They got this. They are the experts of their child. They got the knowledge that they need and they can handle this on their own because this is their family. So my goal is more about education and empowering.
I like that because there's so many spaces, and I don't know if you call yourself a coach or a consultant, but there's so many spaces in life now where we've developed jobs or where it's a coach. I have an eating coach, or I have a business coach, or I have a sleep coach, whatever it might be. And my question is always, when do you no longer need the coach? Or is this something now that they're becoming a part of kind of the rest of your life sort of thing?
Right. I definitely see what you're saying. And I do like to refer more as consulting because I like to educate. And that is my biggest thing, is to educate. And I don't work in homes anymore. I think when I was working in homes, I would refer to it more as coaching because I was there hands-on with baby and then hands-on with mom and dad, and I was doing the work. And when I've gone virtual, I'm not doing the work of putting baby to sleep anymore. That's all up to you. I'm here to educate you, give you the tools, the information, the tips, the plan adjustments, the tweaks, all of that so you can put it together and you do the work with your baby.
I like that. Have you seen a shift from the in-home to doing it more as the consulting virtual, where in terms of like success rates, I don't know if that's maybe the right way to say it, but I feel like for me personally, if someone was in my home doing it, and then I went to try to do it myself and I, struggled, I'd be like, oh, it's just because, they're the expert. It's different, when they're doing it versus if I had to do it from the beginning, struggling through those steps as far as just like, I guess my own view of how it's going.
I definitely see what you're saying. And I will say babies are smart enough to know the difference in their caregivers. And I see that all the time, that even between mom and dad, they might have a different routine and it still works for baby because baby knows. Babies are very intelligent. They know what's going on. And I would say that I wouldn't say a shift in success because your goal in home is to also leave parents feeling like they can do it on your own. At least that was always my goal. I know some people may want to work forever with a family and that's totally up to them, but I would like to leave them feeling like they can do it without me. So there is a little bit of a difference there from the very start, they feel like they can do it because they are working through those challenges. And when I do the 24/7 support, which I offer for up to a week at a time, even in the middle of the night when they're holding their crying baby, they can shoot me a text. And I've got a special ringtone and everything, and I can just give them that little tidbit of information or that little tidbit that's just going to motivate them to keep going. And then they're doing it. And then when they succeed, and 2-3 nights on, and baby slept through that one wake up, they're like, whoa, I did that. Morgan didn't do that. I did that. And that's what I want. I love to hear that too. And I love when parents reach back out after a while and they're like, I just had one recently, actually. They went on vacation. They're like, our baby slept amazing. The best he's ever slept, even though we were in another state and we traveled and we had all this. It's incredible. And I'm like, yeah. And you know what? You didn't text me one time during that vacation. You did this. That is all you. It is just such a cool feeling to hear those little success stories.
I think even just that, what you're referencing comes down to what you kind of said was your first and biggest tip is routine. So if you still got the routine, the environment may have changed and you can't control that in the moment, but you can still control the rest of that routine. And then you're still, having that success.
Absolutely. And that's another big thing is I say control what you can. And there's things that you won't be able to, and that's okay. But we all do really well with expectations, and the baby's going to pick up that, when we, read this story or we dim these lights or we turn on the sound machine, it's time for sleep. And that routine is a lifesaver for a lot of people. And you can make mini versions of it for nap time, and you make it realistic for your family.
Like I had mentioned at the beginning, that big question of, are they sleeping through the night yet? I think we get stuck in that like rat race and all of that pressure. Do you have like maybe it's your opinion or maybe it's kind of a more professional stature? And I know things like when we talk about the United States and Western culture versus European culture, just what that expectation, I guess, of timeline.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. And I do hate that we put families on a timeline because like I keep preaching, every baby is unique. And I will never put a family on a timeline ever for that, especially if they are comfortable with the amount of wakings baby is having. I do kind of have a guideline that we can expect some breastfed babies to still wake up once, maybe even twice a night until they're a year old. And that's totally normal. They might just be getting their calories at that point, and that's okay. It's when it's not okay for a family that we work on fixing that. And I would say that usually around the 4 to 5 month point, we're down to 2 wakings on average, definitely by 6 months. And if we're not, then we can look at what the troubleshooting could be. And again, if it's working for you, don't fix what's not broken. So if you're happy with 1 to 2 night wakings at 8 months, then stick with it. If you're not, then let's see what we can do.
Yeah, that's when you're going through here. The biggest piece I hear is, what is it a problem for your family, I guess? Because like I said, my youngest, we're hitting 15 months. She's got her appointment tomorrow. And I'm already like, I don't know if it's nervous or anxious, but I already know that the question is going to be the sleeping. She is breastfed. I think I interchanged the words wrong. I don't think we co-sleep. I think we technically bed share. And she's still waking, 3-4 times a night probably. So that's the question every time I get, is she sleeping through the night yet? How many times is she waking up? And it's like, I kind of dread it. And I think it's my own dread though, because like you said, it works for us. I'm not all day long unable to stay awake or exhausted and cranky, or, I don't have a job that I need to get to clocked in wise. I get to stay home. So I think that it changes how, our interaction is, but it works for our family. So it's not something that needs to be fixed, at least in my eyes.
Exactly. And why would you put your family and yourself through the stress of trying to fix something that's not a problem? It makes no sense to me. So I'm fully here to cheer on the moms that have a routine. It's still a routine. It's just different than what other people are doing that works for them. Don't change what's working for you. And if you need support in other aspects and it's not just sleep and it's not just newborn care, then you can still feel free to reach out and we can figure out who would be the best to suit you in that circumstance.
That's awesome. So is your main focus with the nighttime sleep, or do you guys work through naps and that sort of thing as well?
I look at sleep as a whole. It is a whole thing and it's with the whole family. So if we have siblings involved, we'll also talk about their sleep and how it impacts your routines with your little one as well. So I look at it as a whole piece. When we fix one, we're working on the other.
That's great. I think oftentimes we don't, like you said, tie those pieces together, or we tie together baby's sleep and how that affects mom's sleep. But we forget to look at like baby's sleep then affects dad's sleep. And like you said, then when mom's sleep is affected or dad's sleep is affected or baby's waking up crying, we might not notice, the other children in the family are waking up. And so I love that you're tying all of that in.
Yeah, absolutely. And our schedules will change too based on siblings and mom and dad and who works and who doesn't and who has extracurriculars. So I like to look at it as a whole piece.
What are kind of your future goals or aspirations for your business with like growth and development?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest one right now is getting this darn website up and running. I am currently, obviously, a mom myself, and we are in the throes of trying to move, and my partner is out of state right now. So this website and I are kind of hitting each other in the head. But that is the biggest goal, because once it's up, I hope to have resources on there for free and for a lesser price than the one-on-one consultations. So that way I can outreach for anybody who needs support in one way or another. That is the biggest goal right now. And then I'm also actually taking classes to work on lactation education. So hopefully within a year, I will be able to add lactation onto that. And I hope that I can create this big prenatal class that will have sleep and newborn and lactation all involved, so I can do some community outreach with that. That would be a big thing for me.
So, like you said, I know you had said before too that you've taken other classes. Is this something where it's just, I don't want to negate the education at all, but it's taking these classes, or do you get to actually earn credentials or have some sort of?
Oh, that is such a great question. Yeah. So most of the classes are certification classes. So you get a certificate of completion. And actually, there's a really interesting fact that in the US, there is no standard for sleep or for newborn care at this point in time. So the courses I took were actually through a UK program that does have that governing factor. And the hope is that at some point the US will catch up and then I'll be kind of grandfathered in because I took those courses through them. That is the hope. So that is also something that people should be on the lookout for if they do find someone and they are worried about the education that they have, is to note that there are a lot of businesses that promote themselves as being certifiers, but there's nothing that gives them a governing factor to say that that is a certification.
Yeah, so you're setting yourself apart and being different in that you are pursuing the education and the credentials and the certifications. But unfortunately, anyone could say, I'm a newborn care specialist. I'm a pediatric sleep consultant.
Unfortunately, yes. And you do want to look out for some terms too, especially in the newborn field. Nobody can say they're a newborn nurse or a night nurse. That's a really common thing unless you're an actual RN or licensed nurse. So you want to watch out for things like that if someone's advertising them in that way, that they are actually licensed to be a nurse before they put that title behind them. So that's why newborn care specialist became a term, to set that apart and let you know that this is a separate. It's not the same as a doula. It's not the same as your regular nannies, and it's definitely not a nurse. So that, yes, I'm getting that education and I continue to study every day. And if I ever get a question that I'm not sure of, I reach out to people that I learned from, other pediatric sleep coaches. I will do the research to find that question for you, because this is a field that it's never going to stop learning. You have to continue learning. Babies in general are something that you always are learning when you work with them. And hopefully the U.S. will catch up at some point and have some governing licenses and things like that for people that are especially working in homes. I think that's a little bit more of an important factor. But also it is nice to have the freedom where you're not following policies that are set for you, because every family is unique and they don't deserve to be treated as just another policy.
That's neat in that you can see, like you said, there's the scary side of it that anyone can say they're offering or doing what you're doing without having that education. But you're also on the forefront of being able to kind of pioneer where the direction of the field.
Yes, absolutely. And that makes it a little bit scarier too, because you want your voice to be heard amongst a million other ones. But hopefully I can make a difference and show parents that this isn't just a one size fits all. And that even if like you said, your baby does wake up sometimes, that's okay.
So is there anything else you'd like to share about your experiences, your business, that importance of prenatal, postnatal support?
I think I would just, reiterate that you are the expert of your child. You have a voice. You deserve to be heard, whether that be prenatally, postnatally, or anywhere along the parenting journey. And I hope that you find that voice and feel empowered to speak out for yourself and ask the right questions, or heck, ask the wrong questions, and we'll find a way to answer those too. And just never feel like you don't have somebody out there that's on your side.
And I think, yeah, like I said, even earlier, we've come back to this same topic with each person that I've spoke to, is just, finding that village and not being afraid to ask questions, ask for help, and just continue to educate in whatever phase of motherhood and parenting that we're in.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, I'll just keep saying it to everyone I meet. Just ask all the questions. Talk to me.
Well, this is excellent. Thank you so much, Morgan, and I want to make sure to say it. It's Soothe and Snooze.
Soothe and Snooze, yes. And you can find that on Instagram and Facebook. And as soon as I get that website launched, I will have that information on those socials as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you also to our listeners. Hopefully you've gained some insight into even just the basic part of sleep is different for every child and every family, and even every child within your family. So don't get hung up on, like we talked about, some of these social media, Hollywood hacks that are not hacks at all. And until then, just keep doing your best. Thank you for joining me on this roller coaster of momming right here on Momma-Sota. I hope you enjoyed our candid conversation about all things parenting, where perfection is left at the door and real life takes center stage. Stay tuned for more heartfelt, unfiltered discussions in the next episode. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Momma-Sota on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. Until next time, this is Monica Eickman signing off. Keep rocking that mom life, and remember, you've got this.